Before we jump in and create our settings page, let's take a moment to look at how our WordPress site is currently set up. We'll assume that you know how to set up a WordPress site, whether you're doing it locally or on a live server, as well as do the basic steps that I'm about to show you. First, use the downloaded assets to create a home page with a picture of Mike the Frog, a little text, an about page with the text as well as the video, and a portfolio with a little bit of information about his education and 2 pictures of recent work. You'll also want to make sure that all of the permalinks are updated to use the post name format, and that you don't have comments at the bottom of pages. Finally, make sure that you set a static homepage instead of it showing your recent blog posts. It's also suggested that you go ahead and install something like Backup WordPress or some other backup management system so that you could easily back up your site as you go along. Now, let's go take a look at the basic file structure for our site. We're going to start by going into our WP content folder and then into plugins. From here, we're going to create a new folder for our plugin. We're going to name it WP Treehouse Badges. Now, we could just name this Treehouse Badges, but one of the important things we have to think about as plugin developers is namespacing. If we just name this folder Treehouse Badges, and then someone else came along and also created a Treehouse Badges folder, there's a chance that these two would conflict with each other. For this reason, we're going to add WP Treehouse as part of our namespacing. We'll use this throughout our plugin. Now, let's go ahead and open this folder up in Sublime Text so that we can begin editing the files. Just like all themes need an index and a CSS file, our plugin is going to need a file with the same name as our folder. So we'll start by creating a new file and saving it into our folder as WP Treehouse Badges.php. Inside of here, we'll go ahead and open and close a PHP tag, and then we'll copy in the comment that is supposed to go at the top of our plugin. When we paste this in, we could see that it's very similar to the comment that goes at the top of a theme CSS file. You could see we have the plugin name, a URL to the plugin, a short description of it, the version number, author, the URL for the author, and finally, the license. We're going to license this with GPL2, the same license that WordPress uses as well as most plugins that are listed in the WordPress directory. Now what we're going to do is come down and write a function that allows us to add a link to our plugin setting page inside the admin menu. And we're going to place this link under Settings, Treehouse Badges. The name of the function that we'll create is WP Treehouse Badges Menu. You could see again that we're using WP Treehouse Badges as our namespacing for our menu function. We'll be doing this again and again. Now what we're going to do is use the Add Options Page function, which accepts a couple different parameters. This function accepts the following parameters. The first one is the page title. Next is the menu title. Third is the capability, which is the level of user that is allowed to access this plugin page, followed by the menu slug, and finally, the function we want to call, which tells us what we want to appear on the options page. So we'll write out add options page, and then begin to fill in our parameters. The first is the page title, which we're going to name Official Treehouse Badges Plugin. Then we'll come down and give the title of the menu link, which we're going to call Treehouse Badges. From here, we're going to say that the capability is the ability to manage options. If they can manage plugin options, then we're going to let them manage this page. Next, we'll come down and create a slug for WP Treehouse Badges. Again, we're avoiding using just Treehouse Badges in order to properly namespace our plugin in case someone else comes along and creates a Treehouse Badges plugin. Finally, we'll come down and list the name of the function that we're going to create to fill in what goes on the actual settings page. We'll call this WP Treehouse Badges Options page. Now that we have our menu created, what we need to do is tie this function into the proper hook so that our information shows up in the admin menu. To do this, we're going to use the action hook of admin menu. This is called when the admin menu is being printed out and allows us to add in our function while it's being created. For the name of the function, we'll simply copy this from up here and paste it in. Now what we'll do is briefly create this WP Treehouse Badges Options page function. We'll copy this, come down and give ourselves a little space, and then write out function and the name of our function. Now what we have to do is write a simple conditional statement that double checks that the person visiting the page does have the right credentials to do so. What we'll say here is if the current user cannot, because of this, manage options, then we write out a die statement with the text, you do not have sufficient permission to access this page. Below that, we'll write out a simple echo statement that just says, welcome to our plugin page. With all of this basic code added, we should find that we have a plugin listed in the plugins directory. It adds a link into the menu underneath the settings link, and then on that page, we test for the right permissions and then echo out a simple statement. Let's jump over now into our site and take a look at this. If we come down into our plugins page, we should see that we have the name of our plugin here, our description, the version number, and the person who created the site as well as a link to visit the site that supports the plugin. Let's go ahead and activate our plugin, and then look under Settings and find our link for Treehouse badges. We can see that we do have the proper permissions, and we see our basic code that's outputted at the top of the page. In the next video, we'll look at how to get all of the basic markup we need into our settings page here.